It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, 866-90 Red Eye. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
It's the Friday show. We're here to the weekend. Oh, by the way, when we were talking about just pontificating there about where society is, let me add to that. Borrow so much money that inflation is bad, where people become hopeless, more dependent on the government, wanting government funding, and at the same time not wanting to work as hard. The whole quiet quitting, whatever, immediate gratification, everything that we have here, along with the intimidation that you better believe these insane ideas or will destroy your life. That's where society is.
And, of course, the lawlessness that comes along with defunding the police and the results of defunding the police.
The chaos that comes along with it build a sense of hopelessness in our society. Another thing I wanted to bring up here, because I just saw this article, ex-MSNBC host savages super woke generation as ignorant on the dangers of anti-Semitism. Frequent MSNBC guest and podcast host Donny Deutsch joined the host of The View on Thursday to discuss the rise of anti-Semitism following Hamas's terrorist attacks on Israel. Deutsch said that while people can say they feel for the Palestinians and favor a two-state solution, Hamas's only goal is to kill Jews. I think the people chiming in on the Free Palestine, not everyone saying that understands what they're saying. There's a big chunk of people saying that I don't believe that Israel should exist, said co-host Sarah Haynes. Let me see here. When they get back, Deutsch praised the hosts for doing the segment with him and that it was not being done everywhere for some reason. And I said this in the clip. Slaughter against Jews, massacre against Jews falls into a different category than slaughter or massacres or justice against other groups. And I think we need more scholars to give us the answers. I'll give you the answer in a second here. He said he also talked about the woke generation that we have today that provides the ignorance of so many people. Well, let me say this, because I want to go after Donny Deutsch the same way, because we've gone after him before when he was on MSNBC more often. He is as liberal as you can get, and he was a main promoter of identity politics for a significant period of time. They don't see the relation. They don't get it. You know, he talks about ignorance. He doesn't realize he's even ignorant of what he promoted for the longest time. You know, back when Trump was president, he said that 1 in 3 Americans are racist for trusting President Trump in 2020. He was referencing a NPR PBS Marist poll that said 1 in 3 Americans trust the president. How do 1 in 3 Americans still believe this man about corona or anything? Their answer is only one thing. 1 in 3 Americans are racist. He was the biggest race baiter out there. He was practicing identity politics and doing what hate leaders do on a consistent basis, and that's calling somebody a racist when there is no evidence that they are a racist.
Right.
We've gone after Biden for the same thing with the Georgia election law, for saying it was Jim Crow. An absolute lie, and you do it why? You do it to make people hate each other. Deutsch did that because he's following the same book of identity politics. If you don't agree the way that I do as a liberal, you're a racist.
Yeah. How many times have we seen liberals who seem appalled at something that was clearly going to always be the case, where it culminated in that behavior that they were a part of all along? Bill Maher.
Same thing for Bill Maher. Yeah.
Over and over again. And now you seem offended? Now you say it's wrong? It was always going this direction. How did you not see the bigotry then? Is it because you were okay with the bigotry against other groups?
Yeah.
You're either blind or you're lying, or you were lying then. But we've seen this over and over again where liberals come out and now they pretend to be offended. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this. You were part of building it.
He's part of the identity politics that exists out there.
Where did you think it was going? We saw it back then. Right. We knew it was going to go this direction. It was never going to be turned around. It was never going to be, you know what? Let's take a pause and let's rethink this. And you know what? Maybe we're wrong about this. Maybe individuals should actually just be individuals, and maybe we shouldn't judge by groups, and maybe we shouldn't go after people who think for themselves. Maybe we shouldn't do that. It was never going to go that direction. It was always going to be accelerated to the point of what we are seeing today. Clear demonstrations of their bigotry. This is how they think. We said it years ago.
Yeah, and there's only one direction, as you just pointed out. There's only one direction when you practice identity politics.
Yeah.
When you judge people by groups, as we have seen, when you believe in, as liberalism does, the victim versus the oppressor, well, it only multiplies. It never goes the other direction where you say, well, we practice identity politics where we judge people by groups and not individuals. It doesn't go where you say, well, you hope some people wake up, but the movement still stays the same.
Yes. Yes.
And you've seen it. We've seen the acceleration of it, and that's what we pointed out with critical race theory, because if you're paying attention to identity politics, which the modern identity politics movement, at least in my opinion, started in the late 80s, early 90s, when talk radio when conservative talk radio came to the forefront, and there were out there conservative blacks with their talk shows. You had Clarence Thomas that was out there, and that's when the bigotry and racism from the left started. And that was, to me, the beginning of the modern identity politics movement here in America, and it grew to the point of Kendi's critical race theory, where all whites are basically culturally racist to the point that it's in their DNA, so you can never change it. Well, I'm not a racist. I don't see color. You see color. Everybody sees color. Yeah, I see color. I see eye color too, but I don't judge a person based on it. Yes, you do. And the fact that you don't think you do is the evidence that you do. That kind of asinine, illogical mindset is what causes people to be racist to begin with. And it all starts with the identity politics of judging people by groups and not individuals. And when Deutsch did that, back during the Trump administration, oh, people still trust Trump? Oh, they're all racist.
Yeah.
That's the kind of race baiting of somebody that practices identity politics, and then they feign shock. How did we get to the anti-Semitism today?
Yeah.
Where did this come from? It's just the normal progression of what you get in racism.
Yes.
It's the normal progression that starts with the stereotyping, then the stereotyping of people, the stereotyping of groups, putting people in groups,
and
group think, exactly.
Yep.
That people must think that way, and just like the point of black conservatives, where my God, all blacks have to think alike. Right. How can't they all think alike?
Yep.
It's the same thing of the modern identity politics today that criticizes individualism and autonomy of the individual.
Right.
You don't see Democrats screaming about that with Kendi. They all agreed. I don't know of a Democrat that didn't agree with critical race theory.
Right.
Maybe Tim Ryan.
For a moment.
But I didn't hear him say it. I didn't hear him say it at that point.
For a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so stop it. Stop this, feigning, oh, we're surprised. How did this happen? It was the only way that it could go.
Well, especially after the very arrogant manner in which Deutsch and others have done this over the years. We're the elites. We know better. These people who support Trump, they're just racist. This is how they did it all along. that you're a thoughtless individual. We're the elites. We're the ones who have the Ivy League education. And we can put the labels on anyone, and it is so because we say so. That's the arrogance that has been going on, and now a few of them are going, hey, what happened, guys? I used to be part of the group. No, it was always going to end here. It was always going to eventually get to this point. I say end. It's not going to end. It's actually going to progress on. And I don't know, by the way, I can't even imagine what it looks like going forward from here. Because when you see these activists out there openly, proudly calling for the end of the Jewish people, I don't know what's beyond that. That's far beyond radical. We've seen it before. And by the way, for people on the left, your days of calling people on the right Hitler are over. Because if you stand with these radicals, you need to take a look in the mirror. And you need to ask yourself where that term Hitler actually applies.
Deutsch is one of the biggest race baiters out there and has been for a significant period of time. And we've called him out on it many times before. He just seems to have disappeared since he's not regular on MSNBC, and apparently nobody's paying attention to him anymore. But when he was on The View and went that, I said, stop it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing with the people of The View. Well, where did this come from, this anti-Semitism? Where do you think it came from?
Where do you think it is?
Where do you think it comes from? Just magically appeared?
Right. All of a sudden, someone just became this bigot? No. It has been the foundation for decades of the left. And it was the only way that they were going to get things done. It wasn't about changing hearts and minds. It was about bullying people and coming after them if they didn't engage in groupthink.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
We have seen some good news in the month of October for some parts of the country, and overall that has led to a reduction in U.S. drought coverage.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey provides the total U.S. drought coverage for the period ending October 31st and changes over the 4-week period.
We see U.S. drought coverage at 36.5% of the lower 48 states. That is down from 4 weeks earlier. The number on October 3rd was very close to 40%. So it changed during the month of October, a 3.5 percentage point reduction in U.S. drought coverage.
Despite that nationwide improvement, more than 1/3 of the country remains in drought.
If you look at the individual states, we have 22 of them reporting the two highest levels of drought, or at least one of those two categories, D3 or D4, your extreme or exceptional drought.
With critical drought conditions remaining in parts of the Gulf Coast states and Southeast. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. To give you an example, because, you know, we just mentioned that Donny Deutsch was on The View yesterday in The View, and Deutsch wondering, where does this anti-Semitism come from? And we went, your identity politics in the Democratic Party, judging people by groups and not individuals, and your race baiting. Here's an example of race baiting from last year from Deutsch on MSNBC.
All right.
This is about where the election was coming up in 2022, and he was saying, we don't have the economy, so we've got to convince the public, that the entire Republican Party has mainstreamed the replacement theory. That is the paranoia that the Euro white is being replaced by minorities, which, of course, is absurd.
Right.
But this is the point. This is where he race baits, and then he wonders where anti-Semitism comes from. Listen to this.
And you make the Republicans own it. I want to say it again. Make the Republicans own it. Every Republican politician, every Republican candidate, ask them about it. Make it, because they can't run from it, because it's part of who they are at this point, as disgusting as that is. But make it the Republican replacement theory. Mainstream it, because this is the way. You have to scare. We don't have the economy on our side as Democrats, so you have to scare the bejesus out of people. The way to scare it is say, this replacement theory, this is not just coming from some dark corner of the web. This is the Republican platform.
Which, of course, is the biggest lie on the planet.
It's bogus.
I've got criticism of the Republican Party, a core belief that of the Republican Party of the paranoia of the replacement theory is just the most bizarre thing you could say. But it's race baiting from Donny Deutsch, and then he wonders, he's on The View, we don't know how this whole anti-Semitism thing comes here. That's because you've mainstream identity politics of judging people by groups and not individuals, and you've been race baiting for the last 40 years.
Well, and he said it. We got to put the fear in the hearts and minds of people.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Right.
With a lie.
And that every Republican politician, and they don't want to deal with it because they all know it's a part of them, which then goes right back to critical race theory, that the racism is a part.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so culturally inbred in you, you don't even know you have it, but you've got it.
Yeah. It's part of their platform. Make them own it. Well, which is it? Because if it's part of their platform, they clearly own it, don't they?
And I love it. You have to hit them for their racism because they're all the same.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah. It's just, that's it. Yeah. Look, because that group, but this is how they think. And he just demonstrated.
Yep.
In that audio cut you just heard. That's a clear demonstration.
He's a lightweight. He always has been.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's really a lightweight.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, again, we see it over and over again. Look, I'm not going to be surprised if we see more and more Democrats leave the party, separate themselves from the party. And I don't know if people like Deutsch or any others will say, you know what, looking back, I was part of it and I was wrong. I don't expect him to do that. But it will be interesting to see where the party goes from here. Because, as always, it's one direction. It's not going to turn around. It's not going to stop. It's not going to end. So where does it go from here? The war between Israel and Hamas this time is going to go on for a while. This is going to be a long war.
Was Whoopi on? Because they were talking anti-Semitism. They must have had double the lawyers monitoring the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I just... And I don't
remember her whole thing on
right
Jews and racism last year.
Yeah,
she had to apologize. Well, she was off for a while, wasn't she? Yeah, I think she wasn't. She off a couple years ago.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, so it's like, anti-Semitism. You got to have get the lawyers.
Right.
All the lawyers have to be listening to make sure that we're ready with a disclaimer the moment after they're done talking about anti-Semitism.
Yeah. Coming up, our disclaimer and correction segment on The View.
The Bonus Show.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. And, yeah, I just the reason Deutsch gets away with it is because – the reason the left gets away with it is because so much Donny Deutsch on The View yesterday and just wondering, where does the anti-Semitism come from?
Yeah.
It's like we remember the things that you said. We remember the race baiting you've been involved in, the identity politics you've been involved in. And as we've laid out, this all comes from identity politics.
Right.
It all comes from racism, intolerance, and bigotry,
right.
The anti-Semitism we see today. And there has been really the modern identity politics movement, to me, began that I've recognized, came in the late 80s and early 90s, and it was against black conservatives.
Right.
And we know what black conservatives have gone through. They've been called every name in the book, including the racial names of Uncle Tom, that you are not authentically black, that you are the slave to the master.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
Because all blacks must think alike. How bigoted has that been? And we've been attacking that. I've been attacking that since I've been a radio talk show host. So that's been since 89. I've been attacking that type of identity politics. And you're surprised?
They still go after Tim Scott. They still go after today.
Right.
They still go after anyone who is a conservative and happens to have a different skin color. And keep in mind also the universities were promoting at one time going back to segregation when it came to student housing.
Yes. Good God.
I mean,
that segregation.
That's who they are.
That separate but equal is the new non-racist thought.
Right.
I mean, it's just
they want to return to segregation. And
you didn't see an outcry
no
from mainstream Democrats at all when they were promoting that.
No.
I mean, my God. And so the thing is, we have memories. We don't live in the bubble of today. We may talk about what's happening, but we remember when people say things. And when we cover people, we remember what we have said about them in the past.
Yes.
Even though we're getting old.
Yes, we are.
All right. You want the good news? I'm going to give you the good news first, and then the bad news secondly about IRA contribution limits for 2024. The good news is...
What?
The IRS yesterday, because of inflation, has upped what you can contribute in your 401k to $23,000, an increase in $500 from last year. Catch-up contributions we remain unchanged at $7,500. The agencies also boosted the contribution maximums for IRAs and lifted the limit to $7,000 for 2024, up from $6,500 in 2022. The catch-up contribution amount for IRAs will stay at $1,000. Now, that's the good news. They've upped it. The bad news is with inflation, it doesn't mean anything. And with inflation, nobody can afford to put in the maximum amount.
For those under the age of 40, a 401k is not a boy band. It is a program, actually, employer-based savings and retirement program. Google it. Man, I love 401k. Their latest album, man, is awesome.
Or it's a very, very long run.
Yeah.
Very
I'm
long
sorry,
run.
who are we raising money for? 401k?
Oh, speaking of K, I was thinking, it made me think of knots. And did you see that story about airplanes crossing to Europe and how fast they're going because of the jet stream? That they're approaching the speed of sound, ground speed?
Wow.
And I happened to go on, what is it, that app that I use it when I'm flying all the time. Hang on one second here. It's Flight Radar.
Okay.
I think it's called Flight Radar 24.
Yeah.
And it was funny because they've got, you can see the planes flying across the ocean, and there was one at my God, 617 knots. That's over 700 miles an hour. And I know that when I last flew to Buffalo, and they said we're going to catch a very quick jet stream, we were at 537 knots, which is 617 miles an hour. That's the fastest I've ever gone on a plane that I know of. Well, except when I flew in the F-16 with the Thunderbirds,
right,
where we went right under the speed of sound, but they wouldn't allow us to break it. The pilot wanted to. He said, He said, well, since we can't do the speed of sound, let's go fast really low over the Pacific. Oh, look, there's a barge. There was this ocean barge.
Buzzed the barge.
And we go flying. He goes, he said, I want to get low where the clouds are. They're low clouds.
Yeah.
And the barge is out there. And, I don't know, we were going at 650, 680 miles an hour and real low to the point where you could see the white caps.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he goes, hey, let's say hello. So he puts the smoke on and we circle the barge. And it's funny because you could see, all the crew came out and they're all waving to us and we're flying. I mean, we're like, unbelievably fast. So, but that was it. And but I think they had the thrill of their lives. First, you're seeing an F-16. You're like, that thing's flying low.
Right.
Is that an American? And all of a sudden, the red, white, and blue smoke comes out. It's like, oh, okay, we're all right.
Yeah.
It's an American
their
plane.
own little mini air show. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Love
was
it.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What was the other thing? There's something else.
I
want to make sure I got in before we get out of here today. I just thought it was interesting because people should know, like, for example, how people are promoting their platform, of Republicans that are running next year.
Right.
You look at 2024. The article here, and it made me think of 3 different articles I've read in the last week. I believe one was from Axios, one was from the Wall Street Journal, and the other one here is from Fox. So there's these 3 articles. It says, Carrie Lake builds momentum for more big-name backing in race to flip Arizona Senate seat. What is the one thing she's not bringing up at all?
Election stuff?
Stolen elections.
Yeah.
Not talking about it at all. Not talking about Republicans in a negative way at all, even those that didn't vote for her last time. And
which is a huge change.
Everyone is noticing the fact that, and she's sticking to the issues, and they're saying, and we've said this before, when she sticks to the issues, she was really good.
Well, and she can talk to the media. She can answer them, boom, 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 back and forth. No problem whatsoever. But, the comment that there's any, what does she say? Any John McCain Republicans here? We don't want you here or something like that?
Yeah, that was it. Yep.
No, you say, you know what? If there are Obama liberals, if there are John McCain Republicans, I don't care who you are. We want to talk to you for a second because we think, if you listen to us, we're hopeful we can convince you to support us during this election. It's very simple, but yet she decided for a weird reason that I can't figure out to draw a line in the sand.
The endorsements show Republicans now are supporting her from all facets of the Republican Party. For Lake, whose new approach appears to have left the accusations of a stolen 2022 election in the rearview mirror. Lake plans to center the race largely, this is like, on the radical record of her Democratic opponent.
Okay.
Yay!
There you go. You mean back to the issues?
Wait a minute. No.
Attacking their record? Okay.
No, it's the Eric Harley political consultant philosophy.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah. That's all you got to do.
Just point.
Very simple. Point at your opponent. Point at the other side. And
what they believe.
I would advise, too, if it is clearly the intention of her campaign and it's her intention as well to avoid the discussion on stolen elections and everything else, I would just any question, because there will be questions by the media. It will get to that point. And she's very good at redirecting. Control the conversation. And if you want to avoid talking about it, you just say, I'm going to focus on 2024. And we're hopeful that the people of our state will show up and prove that we're right on the issues. And just say it every time. Don't engage.
You smile.
Yep. And she's very good at staying on the issues. When she's on the issues, she's very good at defending her position. So hopefully that's the case. Someone had the story. I didn't get a chance to read it. I saw the headline yesterday about, the hunt for the replacement for Mitt Romney. I don't know. Is Liz Cheney moving to Utah?
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know what they're looking for there. But keep in mind, though, look, he went to Trump to get Trump's endorsement, and then immediately after winning, turned on him. So what I want to know is those constituents there in Utah that voted for him based on that endorsement by Trump. How do they feel about that? Do they feel burned? And where are they now? What type of candidate would they support? Do they want I don't even know if you can call him a moderate anymore. Do they want another Mitt Romney, or do they want a more conservative Republican in that state is the question. And I don't know. I haven't seen any polling from Utah.
Why don't you and I run? We can do like the Republicans had come up that they want to have a dual speakership. Remember co-speakership? They were talking about that idiocy. Maybe you and I can move to Utah and we'll both run together.
Yeah. Tag team Senate.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
It's Gary and Eric for Senator of Utah.
Yeah. We're each part-time.
Eric works Monday through Friday. I work Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
And Eric can promote the 9 to 5, work ethic during the week, and I'll promote quiet quitting.
Yeah. 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., by the way.
What'd I say?
No, you said 9 to 5. I just want to clarify. I'm only working overnights.
Oh, okay.
As a senator, I'm not going to work days.
That'll be easier. And finally, I'm not surprised by this. They took a poll of Republican voters.
Yeah.
What is the percentage of Republican voters that do not want any more primary debates?
Ooh.
I didn't see it either. I didn't see this either. Alan handed it to me beginning of the show. I didn't see this yesterday.
I haven't seen it. I don't
know.
I
kept this one.
I don't know. 33.
76%.
Okay, but you know what? Trump is in the polls. He's towering over everybody else, and he has yet to make a debate, and probably won't be in any of the primary debates. So you can say, all right, his loyal followers and supporters. That's what, I don't know, a massive chunk of it right there.
I tell you though, Charles Cook did it, and maybe we'll get to it on Monday's show because we really don't have time. But he had a really interesting article. He's not going to vote for Trump no matter what from National Review. Okay. And he just said, "Where does Trump stand on anything?" He said, "Remember, almost everyone that Trump worked with, who initiated the policies that all Trump supporters like, are now all gone." And Trump calls them names every single day. And they're the ones that did what Trump wanted. Where does Trump stand on all this? Where would Trump go? Would his liberal instincts that he had 20 years ago come back again? Nobody knows.
Who is
the point that he was making?
Who would be who's on your staff? Who's in your cabinet?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
He just went through the whole thing. We'll go through it more. I don't want to do it from memory because that's not fair to him.
Right.
But we covered that. May get to that on Monday.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Did you see the story yesterday about the Target CEO saying shoppers are pulling back even on groceries now?
Yeah. No, you've seen it anecdotally. I think I've seen it anecdotally. We've talked about it. And we hear it from retailers. Well, they're not doing this and they're not doing that. When you look at the GDP, the Q3 GDP and what people were spending money on, when you pare it down actually to the middle class and the lower middle class and families and everything else. Things right now, especially when it comes to the spending power, their money going, very far. It just doesn't. And right now, I think so many people are just waiting for something that may not happen, and in fact likely won't happen, and that's for prices to come down to where they were 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, they're not coming down.
It's not going to come down, even with 2% inflation, which is the target. That means 2% higher next year than they are right now. And it is just devastating to so many families right now.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.